What's the craziest name that you have that someone had you sign?
Oh, those are fun. Okay, like people that we've met, that's their name. Okay. So I think the one that comes to my mind first is one of my fellow princesses thought that the child's name was like LA hyphen A. Said, what's your name? Like trying to figure it out, trying to be empathetic. Child came back with a lot of sass and attitude and said, it's La Dasha. So you learn a lot and you learn that people just have different ways of spelling names, which is really precious and sweet. My other one that and parents are sometimes really cruel too. I've met a child named Asole, spelled Asshole. I met a child named I met a child named Shafid, Shithhead. Shafid. So we're gonna have to dig deep a little. What is the worst thing that you've ever done while you were at work? Wait, hold on. Should I start? Because I feel like mine might not lead into yours, but mine isn't necessarily on quite a grand scale as maybe
Okay, go.
when I worked for a restaurant and I was serving people food. There may have been a time or two unintentionally, like I want that to be clear, unintentionally, if like a piece of toast from the plate fell on the ground,
That's
it got put back on plate. Now, see, I'm not saying that I did this. I'm saying that I would see these things done. Okay.
this is why I don't go out.
I know, right? Like seriously, people have no idea. I think as far as like the worst thing that I did in the restaurant setting, I think I remember being so hungry one night that I ate like a leftover from like somebody's plate when I was picking up, like I was clearing plates from the table.
Snapped on some fries or something.
They weren't touched. Like I don't see. I mean, it's totally disgusting. But yeah,
Not to incriminate myself, that makes very important.
I thought that was less. No,
So what was the question again?
the worst thing that we have done at work
So while at work,
while at work.
you and we've never worked with each other.
That's fine.
I brought it up on my background, but yeah, I think the worst thing that I've ever done at work was you.
I'm worse. I'm like the worst thing.
What I did while at work, yes, but
That jumped pretty drastically
Yeah.
from like eating a fry off of a plate versus
eating something else.
but we didn't that but that didn't happen either. So don't make a nice jump.
Yeah.
I cannot think the only other thing I could think of was
I can think of crazy things that have happened to you while you were at work,
oh, me too.
especially at. Are you even allowed to say?
No,
Don't watch us.
nobody's watching it. But I don't know like if like
No,
using
because
names
there's a
would
bunch of other
be
people that
no, but I don't want to call it by like the official name because then couldn't that be like a copyright thing
is Magic Kingdom copyright.
technically?
I think that everything they have. So let's hypothetically say there was a theme park
Yeah.
you
The
worked at
whole theme park.
that's in Anaheim
Sure.
and is very well known.
Very well known.
Okay.
It's been around for a long time.
Some guy
Okay.
named Walt
Yes.
found it.
Found it or made it. Found the property and made it.
I feel like in my career, I come home with a lot of cool stories. And then when you were at that job, it was like that's the real housewives. You
I
need
still
to make
to this day believe like even when I worked there and I would tell the people that I worked with, I'm like, this would make the most amazing if that company wasn't so
you gotta still
hush hush.
you gotta still keep the magic. That's why.
Absolutely. Yeah. Of course. And that makes sense to me. Like you don't want to ruin it for everybody. But if it was allowed at the time to be an actual TV show, ratings,
Because you
that
gotta think
show
about
would
it,
have
like
been off.
that
the
was
charts.
when Laguna Beach, the Hills.
It was after Laguna Beach. The Hills was going on at that point.
I mean, it was all the same drama. Because all right, so how long did you work there for?
6 years.
6 years. All right. And what did you do when you were there?
My official title, or we're told to say that I was on a tax form, a pageant helper, also known as a face character.
You were a princess.
Yes.
You just say that.
Oh, but I'm just saying those are the official titles.
So, because I don't think I've ever asked you what I remember you were dealing with a lot of stuff going through the audition stuff, but you also modeled back in the day. And I remember you coming home and telling me, like, when you were modeling, It's literally like a meat line. They just line you up and like, "You're too fat. I don't like your chin. I don't like this. I don't like that. You're too short.
No,
You're too tall." But I felt like the
audition
you
process is
experience
a lot.
but then hearing those horror stories when you used to model,
Mhm.
and then hearing this, I was like, "Oh, dang." Like, when you went
That the audition process for the company was different than that of modeling. Modeling was more like you were sent to go sees all the time, and it was usually like a large group of girls, but you were sent in, and they were much more honest in the fashion world, like very, very like critiquing of like you are either the look that they're looking for or you're not. And that's like, and it was similar with the company too, but the company's audition was
to the theme park.
the theme park was they filled this giant like rehearsal hall with, I want to say there was maybe 100 of us in a room at once. And we were put into lines of 10, I want to say, or 20. You would line up and there was like a dot on the floor. And you would just like, there's a line outside the building and then they would just bring you in. And once the room was filled and everybody was on a dot, that very first line at the front, everyone gets talked to and says, "Hey, thank you for coming. We are going to see very plainly whether you look like a character or not. That's simple. You're going to smile for us. And the numbers that we call, we'd like you to go to this side of the room. If we do not call your number, thank you for coming." And that's it. So that audition to me was not intimidating because literally you had two people, and I won't name names, two people who would come up and stand. But once you're in that front row, that's when you're getting looked at. So they would come and look at each person and ask you to smile.
That's it.
That's it. Just smile. And then after they've looked at every single person in that row, they call the numbers of the people that they wanted to keep. And they would send you to another room to go and sit and wait. The rest of the people were free to go. They were done with the audition. Now, what most people don't know is that this audition lasted 8 hours. So if you get kept after you smile, then it's another 8 hours of your day. So after we smiled, then they started, I can't remember if it was the wig first or if it was reading a script. But
Right.
either way, it was like
Did they just pick which one they thought you looked like?
they didn't necessarily tell us.
Did you get to say, "Hey, I think I look
Oh
like."
yeah, no, you don't say anything at all. It's literally like smile.
So they
Okay.
could have just been like, "Come here, try this on. All right, come here."
Yeah, and that's exactly how it happened. The only reason I knew that I was being looked at for a particular princess was because they put me in that wig. And then some girls, they tried on multiple wigs to see who they looked like best or if they could be more than one person slash character. For myself, I was only being considered for one character. So I tried on one wig.
A
And
little more pressure.
no, not necessarily more pressure, but once I figured out who they felt I looked like, it was a lot easier for me to be like, oh, I can hone in on this. And
The
so
Arabian princess.
the Arabian princess from Agrabah. So once that happened, then we were brought in to a room and I don't even remember like they would just like bring in groups and like everybody was kind of bouncing around and doing different things. But in a separate room, they had us reading off scripts. And for me, that was my second nature because I grew up um all 4 years of high school. I did theater arts. I performed in shows.
You know,
So
as a thespian.
I came out as a thespian, very funny. And so for me, that was already my background. I was very comfortable with being on stage and performing and scripts and all of that. And being able to do a cold read to myself real quickly, figure out what I need to say, what I need to sound like. And not only that, these are nostalgic movies from childhood, so it's easy to channel it. So being able to say the lines like that character, walk like that character, all of that is being considered, right? And so then once I moved past that portion, then they had me try on a portion of the costume that is worn for on a daily basis as that character in the park. And it was to see physically if I could be that character because
How'd you
they look,
feel?
um,
Like, you're actually trying on the outfit. Like, how did you feel?
it was fun. It was fun. It was a little intimidating because I wasn't used to, I was afraid of the idea of wearing just like a bra piece. But at the same time, I was like, I had years of modeling experience too, where it's like I'm putting all these different things and changing in front of tons of people and photographs all the time. So it wasn't that uncomfortable. I was just more like, thank goodness that I've been like on top of stuff. But what they're looking for are distinctive marks, tattoos, piercings, because if those things are obvious and prevalent in areas where it's not on a cartoon, then you're cut. Like that was like a big like, okay, do you have tattoos? Or if they are noticeable tattoos, but they really like you and they want to keep you, they once you're hired, they give you like tattoo makeup and stuff to cover up anything that you might have. Or if you do have extra piercings, like you're supposed to tape them, make them less noticeable, tuck them, whatever. So after trying out the costume, um, the script, the hair, the smile, uh, and once they've it's like it's a long day of just like waiting. So in between all of this, it's just sitting in a rehearsal hall, waiting to get called back in to see like when you go back in for whatever. And then I remember it was like at the end of the day, and there was a group of us that got called back into the rehearsal hall. And it wasn't like we all looked the same. We were all like different looking girls. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening here, but and then I remember this girl next to me grabbing my hand, like just randomly grabbing my hand. She's like, I'm sorry, I'm just so nervous. And I'm like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. But then they told us at that point in time, I think there was like a group of 15 of us, that they said, welcome to the company. We'd like you to come and work for us and be a face character. And so that was cool. That was like a long process, but it was really cool. It was fun to experience that.
At the time.
Back then, I considered it good money because most of the jobs at that part are minimum wage. And at the time, minimum wage was like $8.50 an hour. And as a base character getting hired on new, I think I started off at $14.50 an hour. So it was almost double getting paid minimum wage for the part at the time. So for me, I looked at it as this is huge. This is good money. And the majority of the shifts were at least 8 hours. So
So how long was training then?
2 weeks.
What did
I didn't have to do, technically it's three, but I didn't have to do one of those weeks because I already was working at the park through their college program. And I was working in attractions prior to that. So I've been working in attractions for about 2.5 months before I went to the audition. And then because I had that training under my belt already, I only needed 2 weeks of going through character training.
Yeah. Honestly, I would never think to work there. Like, it was never a place that I thought, like, "Oh, I could go get," but you think about how many jobs, like, and
Oh, yeah.
different types. Some of them, yeah, they're minimum wage jobs,
Mhm.
but then they have career. You're electrical, you're a mechanic, you're like, if you think about it, they have career jobs there where if you don't mind I know a lot of people that actually like, I know what I'm doing every single day and I'm
Yep.
comfortable with that. I come in at this time, I leave at this time, and I'm totally fine. They have those jobs, which if you think about it, like is nuts.
I mean, technically, that's kind of what my job was too. And I used to be able to say, like, what do if we go to dress up for a living, I play dress up every day.
Yeah, but if you think about it though, like you were on, because you also brought up, I didn't know there was a difference when you brought up the parade side versus the face side.
Oh, Parkside. Yes. So I was hired for Parkside for in person meeting the guests, interactions, signing autographs, taking photographs, propping. That's literally that is what I did all day long was improv and create moments with the guests. That's Parkside. Now, the other side of it that people were hired for that were at the same audition were hired for Parkside. I mean, for Parade Side. I'm sorry. And that was to do the parades. So they strictly were just doing parades. So sitting in a float and waiting, or some people performing and dancing in different shows that were also parades.
Yeah.
Um,
Was there like a beef who was the better one between those two?
I wouldn't say that there was a beef necessarily. I think that there was kind of envy for both sides, but there were some of us that double dipped. So some of us did park and parade.
It just seems if you're doing like talking, meeting people and stuff, you're kind of like, oh, you're closer to the real thing than, oh, there they go.
But some of the girls really enjoyed that. They didn't want to be having interactions with people because they didn't feel comfortable. They were more comfortable dancing and smiling from the parades. And I admired that too. Because some of them were amazing. Like they had a dance background and that's what they were capable of and they were great at it. Now for me, my background, I was very comfortable, had no issues whatsoever walking out, making conversations with people, figuring out how to make every single person smile from an infant to the elderly. Like I had to figure out how to talk to them, how to relate to them, make them happy, get a photo, give the autograph and make sure that they had a memorable experience with me.
In the 2 weeks of training though, like, what did you actually do? You just went in a room and studied
Oh my gosh,
video?
no.
You just
We
watched the
didn't.
movie over and over again?
No. So I'm trying to remember. So the first week was a lot of introducing the different locations for photo locations or character meet and greets that they have in the restaurants in both of the different parks at the time, in the hotels. It was a lot of like touring. Like this is where we go. This is where these people go. This is where you would get changed. This is where you find your costume pieces. This is how much time you have to do that. This is where also you have to go. This is where you have to check in. This is where you have to clock in and clock out. This is where you would go for lunch, and a lot of that I already do.
All the logistics.
A lot of the logistics.
So the how to hide from guests.
That too. A lot of they are very, very, very strict guidelines on even if you're backstage, so where the guests can't see you. A lot of the times there was a lot of integrity about making sure that even our own cast members that preservation of magic is also even held for some of them, because for a lot of these people they admired those characters, like they like seeing that, and that magic is there for them because it brings to life maybe some of their favorite characters too. So you also needed to preserve the magic for them as well. So backstage it was like, you remove your wig for my particular character because it was so big, so long, it was hard to cover up. So I would remove my wig. But the girls that, they had smaller wigs that they could conceal, they would just cover it with, something. And then we would be changed out of our costume, so to speak, and then wearing smocks over our underdressings so that we could walk around freely. And then we would wear sunglasses because we're covering the makeup portions of what we were wearing too. So it was very, very concealed. So if there were any guests that happened to be backstage and all, then we were already concealed in a way that it would be so disguised that nobody would know what
Side
was.
of did you have to learn like a signature or can you guys
Yeah,
do your
I
own?
know we had to learn a signature. We were given the appropriate autographs. We had to practice it, have it down before we ever went out to perform ever. That you had to have it nailed, and they would ask us to sign on papers. Like the trainers would ask us to sign so that they could see our signature and approve it.
What's the craziest name that you have that someone had to sign?
Oh, those are fun. Okay, like people that we've met, that's their name. Okay. So I think the one that comes to my mind first is one of my fellow princesses thought that the child's name was like LA hyphen A. Said, what's your name? Like trying to figure it out, trying to be empathetic. Child came back with a lot of sass and attitude and said, it's La Dasha. So you learn a lot, and you learn that people just have different ways of spelling names, which is really precious and sweet. My other one that, and parents are sometimes really cruel too. I've met a child named Asole, spelled Asshole. I met a child named I met a child named Shafid, Shithead, Shafid. I think that those are probably. Oh, no. And I also met a little girl, like tiny little thing. I think she was like 2.5, 3. And meeting her, I asked her what her name was, and she said her name was Poochie. I had to ask her 2 more times just to verify. And then mom jumped in and said, her name is Poochie. Okay, thank you.
Tucci.
Poochie. So to each his own, very unique names. Some parents really cruel, but trying to stay in character, not laugh, not have an opinion about it. That I think has probably become my greatest skill in life in general. To be able to conceal my personal feelings about things and not to lie, but to conceal my personal opinion to not offend somebody else.
That you 6 years?
Seriously.
But this is the thing, like you can't do that forever.
No.
Because you're gonna get old and nasty.
Well, I remember one of the girls that I worked with was performing as a princess still, and she was 31 years old. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, she's old. Good for her. I think like the end of my 6th year, I think that she had already transitioned into a different position. But I remember at the time thinking, oh my gosh, it's so old for this particular position.
It's just and if it's her full time job,
Mhm.
That's just a lot.
I think she did more than one job. I think that was just part of what she did. 'Cause she was because she was older, she'd been at the company for a minute already. I know that she didn't work as many days as the rest of us. She was not full-time, and so she did have another job.
That's right, you were full-time.
No, I wasn't. I was part-time, but they worked me full-time hours.
I feel like you said, this could be one of those rabbit holes that you could go down
Oh, yeah.
and, like, finding different topics to just vent about.
Mm,
No,
okay.
but that's the thing. I think this might be something where you could do, like,
We could touch back on the maybe the worst thing that's happened to me at work.
yeah,
We
well,
could talk
that
about
and then,
that.
I think it would be cool to hear more behind the scenes, like,
Mhm.
what really happens behind the scenes, and, like, there's so much. I guarantee there's, like, more drama for you to share just between
Literally.
the cast. Like, all I'm thinking is, let's take the Mormon Housewives, The Bachelorette, The Hills, Laguna Beach, a little bit of Jackass, and just mix it all in,
Mhm.
and then this is what you got.
Pretty much.
I mean, you can make a series on this alone,
I think we could.
which I wouldn't do. Still, the worst thing I did at work was you. Best and worst?
I know, because I was gonna say you're making it sound like I was the worst thing you've ever done.
So what's the best thing I've ever done? Still you, still you, still you. Jeez.